kept a roof over my sister's head for 5 long years, right through the bitter years of the 1930s. But one single ruined suit forced me to make a choice that shattered our family forever. My sister, Angela, lost her husband in 1933. She was left alone with a spoiled boy named Tommy. Times were brutally hard. Folks were standing in bread lines for miles. But not Angela. I worked 80 grueling hours a week at the steel mill. I broke my back every single day just to make sure she and Tommy had a warm apartment and hot meals. I sent her 40% of my paycheck, every single week, without fail. I never bought nice things for myself. My boots had holes, my coats were patched with rags, but I never complained. It was family. Until I got invited to the big foreman's dinner. It was a massive opportunity to finally get promoted to management, to pull us out of the dirt. But I needed to look the part. So, for the absolute first time in 5 years, I spent my own money. I bought a beautiful, custom-tailored charcoal wool suit. It cost me 2 entire months of savings. I wore it to Angela's house that afternoon, to show her before the big night. I walked through her door, standing tall. Angela was sitting at the table, sipping coffee. Tommy, who was 9 by then, was playing on the rug with a tin can, completely full of black motor oil he scooped from the alley. Tommy looked up at me, pointed his grimy little finger and sneered. "Mama says you look like a stupid clown," he said. "She says you're just a dirty, dumb mill worker, trying to play dress up like the rich folks." My heart stopped. The room went dead silent. I looked right at Angela, desperately waiting for her to tell him it was a terrible lie. Instead, she just giggled. She actually giggled, covering her mouth with her hand to hide a massive, arrogant grin. "Well," she whispered, "you do look a little ridiculous, Arthur. We all know who you really are deep down." Before I could even process the absolute gut-wrenching betrayal of those words, Tommy wound up his little arm and hurled the open can of black, sludgy motor oil right at my chest. The foul-smelling oil splashed violently across the pristine wool. The heavy stain spread instantly, ruining the expensive fabric and completely ruining my only chance at a better life. And Angela? She threw her head back and laughed. She laughed so uncontrollably hard, she actually had to wipe tears from her eyes. I didn't scream. I just stood there, dripping in grease, realizing the sister I bled for viewed me as a pathetic joke. I took off the ruined jacket, dropped it onto her floor, and walked out into the freezing rain. That very night, I walked straight down to the bank, and I cut off her allowance. Entirely. Every single red cent. The blind panic set in 3 days later. The eviction notices followed. Angry, desperate, sobbing letters arrived at my door every morning. Angela pleaded with me, swearing Tommy was just a boy who didn't know better. But I felt absolutely nothing. The deep betrayal had turned my heart to ice. I ignored her cries. I changed my locks. I let the unforgiving world handle them. A few months later, the brutal winter hit hard. I heard a rumor that Angela and Tommy had been thrown out onto the freezing street. They ended up in a crowded, unheated charity shelter on the edge of town. 2 weeks before Christmas, the heavy sickness tore rapidly through that exact shelter. I received a typed letter from the city hospital on a bleak Tuesday morning. It wasn't an apology. It was a standard issue death notice. Both of them. Gone. I stood alone in my empty, quiet apartment, staring blankly at the walls. I had protected my pride. I had taught them a harsh lesson. I kept my money. But the heavy silence in my home was deafening. Every time I close my eyes now, I don't see the ruined suit. I just see my sister's pale face. And I realize I traded the only family I had left for a lifetime of absolute, suffocating, endless pain.